Experts opened a secret UN archive and discovered Holocaust documents that rewrite history. In a library tucked away in a genteel part of London, a secret archive is being opened to the public for the first time in 70 years. Inside are tens of thousands of documents, some dating back to the closing years of World War II. And what they reveal about the Holocaust could change history as we know it. Back in 1943, the world was in the grip of a terrifying war. But with Allied troops winning several battles against Adolf Hitler's forces, an end to the killing was finally in sight. It was against this tragic backdrop that the United Nations War Crimes Commission, UNWCC, was formed. Predating the formation of the United Nations by 2 years, the commission was established to assist in bringing war criminals around the world to trial. And although the UNWCC did not get involved in prosecutions itself, it gathered evidence against alleged offenders and reported it to their relevant governments, aiming to ensure that a fair trial ensued. On September 2, 1945, World War II finally drew to a close. At the UNWCC, however, things were just getting started. Over the next 3 years, the Commission would assist in some 30,000 cases. In fact, in conjunction with tribunals such as the Nuremberg trials, they were able to achieve justice for many war crimes committed by the Axis powers. Nonetheless, not everyone was happy with the work being done by the UNWCC. There were in fact some powerful factions who sought to downplay the Axis's crimes for their own political gain. For example, some experts believed that there were figures within the US State Department who were actively working against Herbert Pell, the UNWCC's US envoy. With the dust still settling on World War II, the political climate changed again in the late 1940s. The Cold War now loomed on the horizon, and so many within the US government sought an alliance with West Germany. And in order to help relations between the two nations, the UNWCC was shut down. So for more than 70 years, the information that the Commission had collected lay in limbo. Only accessible to researchers who had the express permission of their government and the UN, the material seemed destined to languish in obscurity. Meanwhile, the world moved on. Over time, some sought to downplay many of the horrific crimes that had taken place during World War II. Senator Joseph McCarthy, in fact, tried to put an end to the war trials completely. Under the guise of a drive against communism, he even oversaw the release of convicted Nazis. In the 21st century, however, the work at the UNWCC has taken on a new importance. While writing his book, Human Rights After Hitler, Professor Dan Plesch sought access to the materials collected by the Commission. At the time, though, they were under the protection of the United Nations in New York. But after appealing to diplomats and ambassadors, Plesch finally managed to secure the public release of the UNWCC's records. Consequently, in April 2017, the Wiener Library in London, England, opened up the archives with a searchable online database. And in it were tens of thousands of documents, some from as far back as 1943. Within the archives, researchers have already found evidence that could rewrite history as we know it. Specifically, they've discovered stunning details about how the Allies reacted to Nazi war crimes as they happened. Yes, it seems that they may well have known more than was previously believed. The first takeaway is that it completely changes how we thought the Allies responded to the Holocaust. Plesch told History in April 2017. We now know that part of the Allied governments in London, in fact, brought criminal indictments against Hitler and his henchmen while the war was going on. In fact, the documents revealed that word of the Holocaust had reached the Allies as early as December 1942. By this point then, both the US and UK governments were seemingly aware that the Nazis had slaughtered some 2 million Jews. In fact, they apparently even made a public announcement at the time. Shockingly, however, it would take another 2.5 years before Soviet troops would roll into Majdanek in Poland. There they would discover the haunting crimes that would etch concentration camps into the public consciousness forever. So why did it take so long for justice to prevail? Apparently, the UNWCC had been hard at work behind the scenes during this period. In 1944, Nazi forces occupied Czechoslovakia had been responsible for a series of massacres. That year, the Commission attempted to deliver justice by indicting Hitler himself for these atrocities. It was more a political gesture than a serious attempt to bring him to trial, explained Ben Barkow, the director at the Wiener Library. I believe that under the auspices of the War Crimes Commission, you couldn't indict a head of state, but it was nevertheless an important gesture. Fascinatingly, these weren't the only wartime secrets revealed by the UNWCC archives. The documents have apparently also turned some other widely held beliefs on their heads. For example, although it was commonly thought that sexual violence only became considered a war crime after the horrors of the Rwandan genocide of 1994, the archives have revealed otherwise. In fact, according to UNWCC documents, Allied governments had begun to take steps to categorize sexual violence as a war crime even before the end of World War II. What's more, the archives have revealed the truth about who began the push for justice during the war itself. Yes, apparently the countries that had first suffered under Axis occupation, such as China and Poland, were the first to demand that the perpetrators of the war crimes be punished. Meanwhile, the Allied powers, including Britain, Russia, and the United States, appear to have been a little slower to join the fight. Plesch, moreover, hopes that the reopened archives will reveal more truths that still resonate today. He said, "Once upon a time, there were people not only suppressing war crimes, but convincing the world that they never even existed."